Hey everybody, Ryan Headley here with 9 Point Strategies. I am here with one of the premier litigators around, Mr. Ian Stewart from Wilson Elser.
Hi Ryan.
How are you, buddy?
Doing good.
We've been doing these shows for about 5 years now, I think, together,
Yeah, it's
right?
been, it seems like I was just here. I was looking around, and I saw the big Eagles Tower over here and thought I would,
Come and say hi.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. So Ian, product liability. One of the hot topics in what we do, and I can tell you this from an insurance perspective, it's getting harder to write these days, especially these higher limits. Do you know why? What's going on with the product liability in a nutshell right now?
Yeah, so the expectation 3 or 4 years ago in the cannabis space was that we were going to see a wave of product liability, bodily injury cases, so the kind of classic thing you think about, and that was sort of seen as the cat risk, and it ultimately still may be, but now what we've seen going into sort of the middle of 2019 is we haven't really seen a lot of claims or lawsuits for that classic bodily injury claim. So for example, think of the nutraceutical space where in GNC or other, they would sell a product and it would cause liver damage,
right.
And that person would sue, or there was some problem with the label, and they said maybe it didn't warn properly for and cause some harm to that person. You're not really seeing that kind of wave of lawsuit at all in the cannabis space. What you're seeing is what we call product ancillary risks and claims and lawsuits, recalls, contamination problems, situations where you'll have a product that doesn't necessarily match up with what's on the label. So maybe the cannabinoid profile is wrong, or maybe the lab test, the COA comes back and it's not quite right, so they got to pull it back.
Okay.
Things like that. And so they're still expensive, they're still problematic, but it's not the really big case that's going to go to trial and it's the family of 4 that's died, or somebody's been poisoned, or there's
that stuff doesn't really exist. We
don't
anything
see that,
around
especially
those.
in the edible context. You would think that there would be some more of that, particularly with children, for example, particularly with certain types of a class of medical cannabis patients, people with substance abuse problems, or people with underlying mental illnesses, are kind of a more of a protected class. You would think that you'd see a little bit more in the product liability sphere with that, but we're really not seeing that.
That's interesting. So, what are you seeing the biggest changes? Is that one of the biggest aha moments for you guys? Is, hey, we're not seeing these claims where 3 years ago we were expecting, like a lot of these bodily injury, or I ate this and I did X, right?
And it still may be coming, and there's a couple of reasons. Number one is when you living in Los Angeles, even being in this space on a day-to-day basis, you don't really see cannabis that much. I mean, you smell it when you're walking around the city, but the retail spaces are not pervasive.
They're incognito for sure.
Yeah, when you're out, going to bars and restaurants, it's not very pervasive. But that could potentially change over time as we start to see more on-site consumption licenses being handed out. Lounges, especially in areas that are dense with bars and restaurants like West Hollywood, where you've got 20-somethings and 30-somethings that'll go out bar hopping and maybe go get an edible and then go back to the bars, right? Because you've got protections against liquor establishments in many states like California, where you don't have those same protections again for cannabis companies. And so the opportunity to have those giant, nationally reported kind of incidents or occurrences happen is going to be higher in the future. Plus, you've got insurance coverage limits that will still increase over time, and the plaintiff's bar that'll become better educated in terms of how to sue these companies. So, I think it still could come, but we really, we're way lower in terms of claim frequency and severity than we thought we would be at this point in time.
And that's good for an industry at this point. I mean,
absolutely.
that's something that we weren't expecting, and it is actually coming through. I mean, one thing that's always kind of baffled me is packaging, right? I mean, packaging from a product standpoint, California, Prop 65, we have to put it on the packaging now, right? All that kind of stuff. So are we seeing other states having to do that? I can imagine being a packager and a label maker and that kind of stuff.
Well, I think that there's a big difference between the cannabis side and the hemp CBD side, right? So on the cannabis side, every state has very specific regulations for their own packaging, and you have to comply with those, obviously. So it's in some ways it's really easy, because when a client calls up and says, "What are my packaging obligations?" we can just go down the list, and it's I mean, it's,
and you can't go over
it's
state
all laid out.
boundaries, so it's state by state.
That's right. So in that way, it's sort of easy. On the hemp CBD side, it's very difficult, because not only do you have the FDA prohibitions, which setting that aside, You've got some states that expressively also under state law prohibit CBD in foods and supplements. Other states allow it expressly. Right. California may be one of those states coming up with Assembly Bill 228, which could be signed by the governor in the next couple months. Right. So that's possible. And then you're going to have this dichotomy between federal and state law again. And ultimately, there is no label out there, doesn't exist right now, that is compliant in all 50 states on CBD. So when you've got these e-commerce sites that are selling CBD products online, these are products.
How do they know?
If they're selling 50 states, or even if they're selling 20 states, they're going to be, adulterated, misbranded, mislabeled, under the law. And that is a problem because we are now seeing CBD companies being sued for consumer mislabeling, consumer class actions, competitor claims, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see CBD in Walgreens and Walmart and all these other places now, right? And to control that is very, very difficult. Final thoughts on you? I mean, where do you think we're going? Is it?
I think that fortunately, even though it is, product liability is a difficult product to write for insurance. Right. There are good options out there right now, and that's good because, again, 4 years ago there really weren't.
Yeah.
And so, without that coverage, this industry would have stagnated long ago. And there's more coming online all the time. So I think that's all good.
And educating people to know that they need to buy this product.
Oh, they have to have it.
They have to.
And I think some new states, as they roll out, will probably more and more mandate product coverage with certain license types.
Yeah. What is it? Oregon right now is the only one who requires.
Washington. And again, that's a little bit vague. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think for this industry, kind of like where comp's required for anybody with an, you should. I mean, it's the responsible thing to do in an industry that's trying to do what's right.
I agree. I think it seems logical to have it.
It really does. Well, I really appreciate it, Ian.
Yeah, thanks, man.
This is fun, man. It's always good to see you.
You too.
Thanks, guys. We're signing out at the Cannabis Expo. Really appreciate it. We're at booth 1119. Come visit us. See you later.